Okay, welcome to the Cappy Hour podcast with today's guest, Koki.
Hello, hello.
Hello there, my first female guest. Who knows, this might even be my first podcast overall. I filmed about 4 of them, but I think as you and I have always had the best sober energy, and my first guest, Tom, was great, but I've gotten a little more experience with this, so might want to wow him off the bat as I do
Oh,
this with.
Tom, I don't know. He's got a lot of charisma. Tough act to follow.
Well, both Tom and I love to talk, and we kept catching each other kind of going on. So I'm trying to get a little more succinct as I go along. So Koki and I know each other the same way as I knew that guest from Reframe, which is a sobriety app that I originally got on over 2.5 years or so ago now, after my mother and sister showed up at my door on Halloween, and my mother tried to make me go to rehab, but I said no. And I got on Reframe instead, and that is where we met. And Koki, you're still on there, right?
I am. Active as I can and want to be, for sure.
Excellent. Yep. And I've since left for another community, the Luckiest Club, but I still keep in touch with a lot of reframers. So yeah, let's go right at it. Koki, you and I were always two of the happiest people on there. I always said sober spring my step. I'd even say we were sober sisters, but
Totally.
but
Yeah, it's really nice to hear your voice, actually, because what happens in those meetings is you start to feel like you've got your familiar people that understand you, people you look forward to their shares. And those meetings really, when I hear your voice, I was like, okay, brought the energy, you set the tone, and we usually were the happiest, even in our struggles. And it was nice to have a truly uniquely positive energy that we were bringing, which seemed quite unique and in those meetings, because a lot of people are struggling, as were we, but you and I seem to default to the positive, to the sunshine.
it's true. And I think when we talked before I hit record, we were talking about our class. I think you used the term class, and I always say that almost like it was a graduating class. You know, it was a really special bond we have. And it's true, we were all basically on our day ones, right? I mean, it was
class of 22. Whoop, whoop.
That's right. And you've since blown by me. You're October 1st, right, of 22 is your date, which would be about 2 years and 5 months or so for you now. Yeah.
It's let's see, let me just open my journal and tell you the exact day. I still am a day counter, and I think that's different for everyone, but for me, counting my days is me recognizing that I've never done anything for 896 days in a row that is so good and transformative for me. So I'm going to keep, being proud of myself, patting myself on the back, and the higher the number for me, which I see in days, the harder it is to want to knock those days down. I want to keep seeing them grow. So it's a motivator for me. Other people, it stresses out, and I really think there's room for however you want to count it. It's kind of like when I had kids, you stopped counting them by the months, and then they started being years. But in the beginning, it was days. He's 12 days old, he's 18 months old, and finally, he became 16.
Yeah. But it's good, because you're coming up now in the Comma Club, so you got something to strive for, right?
Exciting! I know, and only our inner circle even knows what that means.
I was going to say
people in my life don't.
Yeah, the 1,000 days they call the Comma Club, but yeah. And speaking, do you share your milestones with people in your life?
I do. I'm a Gen X baby, so I have a harder time. Some of us are good about it, but some of us have a harder time with social media. So I don't tend to share my milestones on social media. I do have a sober Instagram with every milestone, but my children know. My journal knows the most. But if somebody asks, I proudly will tell them my day count, because it's pretty evident to the people in my life that things have changed in my life. And so people do ask me, what's going on with you? And I can stop and say, well, I'm 896 days alcohol free. That's one thing. And most people, everybody in my life that is aligned with where I am right now in life does know where I am on my journey. And everyone's really proud. So I feel very lucky.
Excellent. And do you actually note it? Put the day every day in your journal. You put the day
I do.
count.
I
Do you,
do.
do you do it daily? You don't do it in advance per se. Like, do you?
No, I do it daily. Sometimes I do it back. You know, the last time I did my journal was Wednesday. I was just here making it so I could put my count in. I also count the days that of certain things that have changed for me. Last year, I quit eating animal or animal byproduct, went totally plant powered, and so I'm at 399 days plant powered today. It's fun. It's just like numbers are powerful, and I've never really been much of a number person, but this has helped me connect to numbers, and I really proud of stacking that many days.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I think the day count is so important. I know everybody's different, so I try not to preach it too much, but I do think it's so important. You know, people I'm helping unofficially coach now, I say to them, hey, one woman said to me, she texted me, I'm on day 8 or 9. And it kind of infuriated me. I was like, which is it? You should know that. And I said, I wish you would share that. I try to get her to share every day. And I said, including your day count, but I get it the other way. No, people hate to say it and then have to start over, etc. But I don't
Yeah,
know.
I think we're all motivated. We kind of have to parent ourselves and try out different things. Like Happy, you tried out a certain amount of time not
Yeah.
drinking, and then you did some research, and then you tried again. It's like um, if it's not motivating to you, that number, and it's causing you more stress, just finding what does work in the time that it does, and maybe numbers will work later. We all get motivated by certain different things, and sometimes they work and sometimes they don't.
Yeah. Agreed. Agreed.
I mean, I wasn't motivated by numbers in school. I'd
Right.
rather say 3 months we're going to graduate than instead of, you know, what, 95 days or something.
Yep. Yeah. True. 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 So, I have a meme up going back to, the change, I, I've got you quoted several times saying, I think it was I'm happy to meet me. I believe now
Yeah, I did say that. Funny.
I love that one. I wrote down a bunch of quotes and now I've got so many in front of me. I was getting caught up there, but
It's
yeah. And
funny when I share in meetings, I do have to say it's almost like I feel like I'm channeling because it just starts coming out of you, and you do forget some of the things you say, especially when you're learning, because you're almost discovering as you're sharing,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, that one came out definitely in one of those moments where it's like, oh yeah, I am happy to meet me. Yeah.
Which it just occurred to me, I pulled up a few of the memes you had shared and probably inspired by this. It says, Sobriety introduced me to a version of myself I'd never met before. Turns out she's amazing. I like her way better and I'm never, ever letting her go. And
Oh yeah, I don't know if that was me.
no,
That
well,
was
you shared it, but it was from the magic in the middle. The magic's in the middle.
Yes,
But yeah,
which
you
has
would,
so many great ones that just speak
yes.
so clearly to the experience. Yeah, because it is an
Yeah.
experience. You choose to not drink, and then all of a sudden you're on this experience. It's like a choose your own adventure ride, where you can choose how you take it every single moment. And sometimes there's quotes and people and experiences along the way that are just like, oh yeah, that's exactly how I feel. Magic in the Middle is a great sober Instagram for that. And honestly, sober Instagram and sober curious Instagram is really what led me to probably reframe and this journey.
Ah, that's interesting. Yeah, it was my friend Amy. I have to give credit that, and she had been telling me for a while before I actually got on there, but she had been texting me. But sober Instagram, when we were on in our early days, I wish I was following more sober accounts. I was mainly just following our friends on there, but there are so
Uh,
many great sober, inspiring accounts like that.
and
Absolutely.
it has grown beyond measure in the past 2.5 years of what kind of content you can get. It's everywhere, and it's
Yeah.
cool. People are just so inspired to share, which is, I think that step of service. I didn't follow any 12 steps, but I do understand it. Being around people who are on this journey, a lot of people have tried, especially 12 step was all that was there for a long time. So it really does work for a lot of people. And it's so great that from that, so many different communities like TLC and Reframe and lots of things internationally now to help people, along this journey in a way that speaks to them. I'm really happy to see more and more platforms and sober accounts and people who are speaking out about how cool it is to not drink. Like, it's just such a cool life.
Yeah, it is. It's crazy. I have a college buddy who's 10 years plus with AA. So I was telling him about the sober communities we're in. And he was like, so wait, you don't follow the steps? And I was like, no, there's no dogma. There's no religion. It's just topic based. They just introduce a topic and we talk about it, but it works for us, right? Everybody's.
It worked for me. I also, there's a lot of people who probably don't quit drinking because of one program that they know about. I wouldn't have probably really explored Reframe if they didn't talk about their, or maybe it was even advertised, the cutback, which was like, oh, maybe I can cut back. I honestly never planned on quitting drinking. So, but then when I thought about cutting back, I'm like, oh, I've definitely thought about cutting back. The only time I ever thought about quitting drinking was when I was extremely hungover. That was it.
Yeah.
I definitely written down in journals I found a journal from like 30 years ago where I said, maybe I should stop drinking alcohol and see what happens. And it came from that lens of curiosity, which, curiosity actually is what got me here. I just wanted to see what it would be like. And so cutting back seemed to be the nice little pool. And I started doing cutback and doing the cutback track. And then I realized, it doesn't really make sense to me to drink anymore. It just stopped making sense. And it stopped being something I glamorized. The de-glamorization happened in year 2 for me.
Really?
Yeah. I know you're coming up on a big mile marker. Do you want to talk about that?
Oh, sure. And I was saying it's a little bittersweet since we started out together. So I should be approaching my 2.5 as well. And my accountability partner is right around where you are. And she said, in her case, she was coming off a DUI. And I remember even saying to her at the time, I wish, and this shows what a bad place I was in back then. I was like, I almost wish I was coming off a DUI because that makes it a lot harder not to drink. Granted, right. I had the thought of my mother walking in the door the morning she and my sister walked in. This is unbelievable timing. I had purposely planned to drink so much the night before that I never wanted to drink again. And I said,
I've done that.
My analogies, like whether people did or not, you heard about parent making their kids smoke so many cigarettes they'd never want to smoke. Yeah, if the kid.
Smoke up, Johnny.
It's like, did they really do that? But yeah, it's like you catch a kid smoking it. But so I did. You would rarely ever get sick, but that morning, 3:30 in the morning, I never got so sick. And then my mother and sister show up at like 9 a.m. I mean, I looked like death. My mother was freaked out.
I can smell you.
Yeah. And I didn't want to go to rehab. I mean, I do sing that every time I reference it. She truly tried to make me go to rehab. And I really did say, no. But I almost pushed her out the door and said, but I promise to make some calls, So yeah, I didn't even say no. I said, I'll look into it. And I did. I think I made one call and I did get a call back, but it didn't go. And I think they asked me some questions and then we're like, all right, we'll get back to you. But anyway, that's when I contact my friend Amy, who was like, remember that app Reframe? And I got on there. But my point is that was enough for me. I didn't even think about drinking for 63 days.
Didn't even think about it?
You're right. Thank you. Remind me of my friend Maddie always catches me on things like that. So of course I had to, because you're right. I was at my pizza shop, which was my biggest trigger, 50 yards away from a liquor store. So it's a great way. Obviously I had to have thought about it, but I guess it was fairly easy for 63 days. I mean,
you were able to compartmentalize. Are you able to do that with other things in your life?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I don't, I don't believe I had any close calls. It was off the table. And I was sharing like a maniac, which,
Mm-hmm.
you know, for me, there was an old saying I heard: if you go to an AA meeting that day, you won't drink. Well, to me, it wasn't enough just going to the meetings. But if I shared that day, I even invented my own version of play the tape forward, which
Mm-hmm.
is, of course, but make sure everyone knows is, you're supposed to think about all the ill effects from drinking so that you won't, the hangover, all the bad things that might come of it. So you play the tape forward and talk yourself out of it. Well, that never worked for me because,
That never worked for me either.
yeah, it was drinking for us. It was a survival mechanism. So when I'm about
I
to
kept
drink,
confusing what I thought was going to be fun. What I liked about it, like, oh yeah, but I could dance a little longer.
yeah. And this analogy just hit me, and I say it all the time. Like, you think, how can that criminal be so stupid? Well, criminals never think about getting caught when they
Right.
commit it, right? So I'm not thinking about the hangover. I don't care.
Yeah.
I'm doing it to survive the moment or the night or
Yeah.
whatever. So, but I invented what I call play the share forward, where I would get on calls and say, I am not going to drink tonight. I'm going to go to my pizza shop. I'm going to embrace the tension, embrace the fear, and it's going to build resilience. And then I'm going to share the F out of it that night or the next day. And I got into a pattern of doing that where I would just come on and say, yeah, I didn't drink last night.
Yeah, I have drinking dreams that include having to share that I drank. And that scared me. That's the people pleaser right there. That scared me more than anything. Like, oh my gosh, what's so and so gonna think? Or like, which actually shouldn't matter, but it is the motivator for a lot of us who want to be, accepted, and not disappoint anybody. Yeah, that was a fear tactic for me for sure. Yeah, play the share forward.
Yeah,
Because
and
what
that's
do you
when
say? You really don't have any excuses at that point. You're just defaulting to what was comfortable, and you're in a room of people who are trying to change patterns, which is not an easy feat, and most people don't even want to change, right?
right.
Unless they're forced to, usually by some sort of an event. I felt more lucky that it wasn't an event for me. Like you said, your accountability partner had a DUI. I remember one of the reframe coaches that I became really inspired by also came at it from a DUI and having to go to jail. And I came at it from curiosity set point and like more of I'm getting to a point where I shouldn't be doing this anymore, probably. And I think it helped me grow in a way of personal development that didn't feel forced. I'm kind of a rebel at heart. So if I'm forced to do something, I will rebel against it. So being forced to me was almost just like it seemed like you might have to go through the patterns in a different way, not really wanting to. And I really wanted to. So I think that might be for me the secret of my path to success was I really wanted to quit drinking. I wasn't forced to stop and look at it from what we would have called a rock bottom. But plenty of pebble bottoms, as we used to say a lot in reframe. Plenty of pebble bottoms.
I don't remember that one, but I like it.
It might have been from some of the women's only meetings, actually, because I
Oh,
think a lot of women go through coming out of mommy wine culture
yeah.
or brunch culture that became like all day drinking on a Sunday, Sunday fun day or something. Coming out of it as like, well, we scraped by that Sunday to get to Monday morning, plenty of pebble bottoms. There's
Yeah.
things you might not have wanted to do.
Did you have any kind of rock? We've hit many topics, so I'm taking a note here. I want to. Did you say you didn't have a rock bottom?
I didn't have a rock bottom that sent me to, or it wasn't a direct path from a circumstance to quitting drinking. But I
Mhm.
definitely had moments that I think were seeds, and they were significant seeds. Um, I got a concussion in 2016. I wasn't drinking more than I normally would. It was at a birthday party, a kid's birthday party. I was being the responsible mom with all the other moms. We're drinking cocktails while we're making all the party food. And then, we go down there's a water slide that was like a homemade water slide that was built to go down into the lake. But the way they built it that year were boards over the concrete steps that go down to the dock. And I just happened to hit the board with my bottom and fall backwards and hit my head on the board. But where I hit my head was where the lip of a concrete step would be. So I really knocked my head out. I landed in the lake. I put my head in the lake because it was cold, which just felt like the right thing to do. And I had a moment of, I could die. I was under the water for a minute. Like, this could be it. And I was looking at the surface of the light coming in from above.
Wow.
And I did come to the surface, and I kept my head back, which seemed like for hours, but I think it was only minutes. But you don't know in those moments, you know. And I came in and took a hot shower, and my little girl was with me, and she just saw me start to bawl, and I had no idea why. And I just was having I didn't crack my skull, but I was having a really severe concussion. And from there, I regained a new understanding of my brain and how the brain works and what a mystery it is, and how maybe I would have not made some decisions if I wasn't drinking. But that concussion really changed my trajectory in life. So, I didn't stop until 2022. So you can see how long of a time, but I would have considered that a significant moment in questioning where alcohol plays in my life and what it's doing to my brain. And I think one thing that reframed how we met also not lured me in, but, inspired me to actually click on this app program was the neuroscience part of it, because I was just starting to learn about neuroplasticity and how the brain works. And, the invisible injury of a concussion is intense. I mean, I started to have panic attacks for the first time in my life. Well, if you have panic attacks, and it's starting to affect your life so much, medication, becomes a part of your life. I started to take anti-anxiety and, medication for the first time in my life. I'm a real earth mama, so I don't really put much of that kind of stuff in my body, and it helped. But then I was having a relationship with that, and you're not supposed to drink with those things. And I was drinking with that. So my question was, how effective was it? Why was I choosing wine to go with it? So yeah, I would say that was maybe a rock bottom in some ways, but nothing that I had tuned to, like, oh, I had a concussion, so therefore I quit drinking, because there was, 5 years in between.
And of course, I'm sure you know the expression, rock bottom is just when you decide to stop digging. So it can really be anything.
Yeah. Totally.
Any point where you just, decide you're the old sick and tired of being sick and tired. So
totally. That's something you used to say a lot, and I really like that one a lot. That works for me. Yeah.
Yeah, that one, that's a big one in the, I think the AA space. But
I want to just say about you coming on, you being at the same number of days together, and then you deciding to research drinking again, I'd like to think of it as, and you have this new knowledge of, like, what's better. It's got to give you some extra conviction in the days that you've stacked now. But when I was coming upon, and when I was coming upon a year, I was having some, like, I feel like I should be farther along now. I feel like I should have this figured out. I feel like I shouldn't still look at alcohol and wonder what it would be like, or should I drink again, or do I have this now? I mean, I was still having all those thoughts, and it is somewhat just another day, your year mark. And I kind of went through, like, I'm excited about it. My friends recognized me for it. We had a nice gathering. And I'm really happy I had that year mark. I wasn't in a place inside where I thought I was going to be, but now in retrospect, I'm exactly where I should have been. And as the days go by, it just feels like you're healing, as long as you're doing the work of, like, really wanting to grow and get the most out of this life. It just feels like, oh yeah, I can get another year in there and look at how far I've come. It's like looking at a scar fade, kind of.
Yeah. And I actually didn't finish the day count, so good reminder. About me, I was saying I went 63 days, because you asked what my you knew I'm approaching a milestone. So I got to 63 days. I went to my pizza shop on a Sunday, had a misunderstanding with my cook, so I had to run the entire shift. I usually ran the front. I had to run the front and do all the cooking, crushed it, and then I found a term for this, and I lost it. And I need to find it. There is some term where those with alcoholism, problem drinkers in general, where when you have a good thing happen, you experience some kind of state where you are also prone to drink.
Yeah.
And to quote Jay, one of the great leaders that was on Reframe, he said, "You all need to find a new way to celebrate."
Yeah.
And it was somewhat celebratory and somewhat just, I was so frazzled. And then it was over, and there was a quiet until the dinner shift. And I didn't know what to do with myself. And I was going on vacation the next day with my family when I knew I would never drink with them, around them. That was funny. I'm one of those, sometimes people, their families are triggers. For me, it was the only time I didn't drink. When I lived in Boston, I drank like crazy. Then I'd go to my parents for the weekend or for, a night, and I would not drink. So anyway, just the voice. I think that's the biggest lie. No matter how much time you have, the voice, well, it senses weakness or whatever this state was, and just said, "You're just going to drink today. Just today," to get rid of that weird feeling you have. I should have closed the shop. I can picture myself right now saying, I should just close for tonight and go home. And I didn't want to do it. And I said, nope. Instead of drinking the 40 proof vodka that I normally did, I'm just going to drink Dr. McGillicuddy's. It's only 24% alcohol.
Oh, you were doing all of that mental gymnastics, huh?
Yep. And it was kind of true. To me, that was like drinking mouthwash. And I never did that, as a last resort.
Yeah, that was me having a Pilsner at the end of the night. Always like, it's just a light beer. It's just a Pilsner on top of everything I drank all night long, It's like, I'll just have a Pilsner as a nightcap. It's nothing.
Yeah.
It's only 5%.
And and it worked. Like, I drank the Dr. McGillicuddy's and I had a great night, basically. I had a great little buzz going. But you know what? Then went on this family trip, and 3-4 days in, something happened that shook me up a little bit. Doesn't normally happen. And I was left alone with some alcohol, and I drank. And then I'm golfing with a buddy the next day. So I was so looking forward to sober golfing with him. And then I drank with him. And then I came home and got COVID. That got me out of the cycle. But then I went on a date that I was really anxious about. I was really excited, but she felt like a little out of my league. And another great quote Jay loved to say is you got to, especially in early sobriety, go outside your comfort zone, but stay inside your strength zone. That date was outside my strength zone. So I drank some more Dr. McGillicuddy's. I still remember stopping to get it on the way to this date. I blew the date because of that. My face was so red. When I spit, drinking makes it red, but then when I take a break and start drinking again, it makes it even worse. I remember telling her, she was like, "What's wrong with your face?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm just so anxious. That's all it is." I convinced her. But then I said something stupid on the date, and it blew the whole thing. And bottom line. But then I got it going again. I got up to like 150 days, but then got out of community, got a little disenchanted with my community, got out of it, and then I wasn't declaring my day count to anybody. And that's why I think for me it's so important. And I held out for a couple weeks, but then again, it didn't help being at a pizza shop 50 yards from a liquor store. And that time I don't remember when it was, but I know I made it a couple weeks after leaving the community, but it was probably the same thing. I'm just going to go get some more Dr. McGillicuddy's just to drink tonight. It was probably a Friday night, which were crazy. And then that led me all the way back again. And it wasn't until now, a year. So it'll be a year. I'll be hitting a year on Tuesday. Thank you very much. Yep. And that's a great story.
Did you ever hit a year before? What was your day count was? 63.
You may or may not recall, I once, 11 years ago, I had a rock bottom. Well, now really 12 years ago now, I had a rock bottom, almost drove with my niece. And then it still took me almost a year, because I do say, we have to drink to get over. It's not funny, but it is. We have to drink to get over our rock bottom. So you can't just quit right after that, unless that's where the DUI helps. But I actually did get put into protective custody, but protective custody is great. It's like getting arrested, but then they just let you go free the next day.
Oh,
Are you familiar with that? Like, that's truly a thing. That what if you're just, it happens to a lot of drunk people, drunk and disorderly. I know a guy got put in a PC. He was on his front lawn. I don't know why the cop didn't just put him in his house, but he actually PC'd him. It's called protective custody. They actually arrest you. They put you in handcuffs. It's completely like an arrest. But once you sober up, they just let you go. It's kind
it
of,
makes me think of one of my favorite movies is Easy Rider. I haven't seen it in years, but with Jack Nicholson is in jail and he's like, it's basically like the drunk tank kind of for him. And they knew him, they knew his name and everything. And, he's got his suit on and he puts it right back up and, says good morning to the bailiff or whatever. It's just like, all right, another Wednesday night out on the led to, going to jail for the night. So yeah, I didn't really equate that, but yeah,
yeah.
I've been very fortunate not to be in that position. I think that would, my preconceived notions about that would scare the heck out of me.
Yeah, it's being handcuffed and being in the slammer is it's a life changer. Yeah, and my mother might be listening to this. She originally said, "Oh, I don't like having those earphone things in. I won't be listening to your podcast." And then she texted me, "It's like, oh, wait, I think I found a pair I can stand." So I'm like, "Oh, great, she'll be hearing this." But
I feel like your mom is really proud of you. I will say that you are such a dynamic person as a son, as a mother to a son who's about to be 16. I'm so proud of seeing my son become his true self. And he doesn't drink or really party or anything. He's a pretty avid golfer. He just got on the varsity team at his high school, so he's really excited. But I think your mom is probably witnessing you come into yourself, and if we could see into the future when we were doing meetings together, Cappy Hour was a real thing, and here it is coming into like fruition and being such a great catalyst to your growth and being able to actually be so vulnerable and brave and strong as to quit drinking and then to talk about it publicly to the whole world. As a mom, I'd be so proud of you right now. So I hope she really is, no matter what your story is, because your story is just the human experience, and it is the stories that got you to this moment, which is Cappy Hour. If it was all easy and you didn't have moments with drinking that you have to really reflect on your true self with, Cappy Hour might not be a thing. And you could just be, floating mundanely through the rest of this experience, but you get a chance to really reflect on it and grow from it. It's all
yeah,
any mom could want.
well, I appreciate it. Appreciate it. Yes, I once said on a call, I said, if I have a higher power at all, and maybe it's my mother, I said, I really aspire to making her super proud, or really fulfilling my potential
That's awesome.
while she's still with us, which hopefully will be a very long time, but none of us are
Yeah.
getting any younger.
No.
And, that's part of the thing. I still feel like I'm going to live forever. And,
Yeah.
you know, so I never had any sense of urgency, especially through my drinking. You have no sense of urgency because, I say you don't want to die, but for me, I was just waiting to die, kind of. And I say now in sobriety, I want to live forever. And I knew drinking was holding me back. I like to say I was haunted by my potential, and now I can't wait to fulfill my potential. And part of that is,
Cool. Well, you are.
well, I hope so. I hope so. I definitely.
I mean, for me, at any moment that you can try and grab and juice as much as you can out of this experience, without with absolute genuine love for yourself and therefore for others, by taking actual responsibility for your frequency at every moment, you are living to your potential, is how I see it. I feel like me doing the best I can to love myself radically by taking care of myself, by the actions I take, by the words I use, by the agreements I make. It doesn't look like it used to. You potential used to mean like you make this amount of money and you live here and you're married to this person and all those old, like, agreements we made a long time ago, and thoughts of life. For me, it's like, oh, I'm living my life to my full potential by really taking care of myself, and therefore I'm able to reflect and give love and that energy to the people around me in all different types of circumstances, but really especially my children and the people that I love and consider family. That's living to full potential for me. That way, the present moment is just as good as it can get, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's funny. My parents kind of like, what are you going to do? I left my pizza shop 6 months ago and kind of like, what are you going to do now? And it's much for my own benefit. My mother said, why don't you at least get a, part-time job? And I said, I think this is going to be my long-time job. I do think eventually I'll make a career out of this, as it helps me. Keola, who was a leader of ours, and she still is in my community, but
Love
she,
Keola.
as does everybody, so hope she's even listening to this. It's funny, I have Laura McCowan, who wrote the book We Are the Luckiest, who's the leader of the Luckiest Club. I was talking at a Keola meeting, so she was a leader on Reframe, and now she's at the Luckiest TLC, the Luckiest Club, and Laura talked about the big energy that she used to feel and almost drank to kind of help deal with that. And I kind of felt the same way because
Me too, Cappy. Me
really,
too.
yeah,
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah, because it almost put pressure on me to utilize that energy and I didn't know how to do it. And yeah, it's, like my pizza shop, every single person that walked in, I wanted to have some kind of joke ready to go for. I mean, I even want to have like intro music for the regulars.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, crazy the ideas. Like if their name would say it was a Roxanne, I'd want to have Roxanne ready to go every time, she'd walk through the song that is.
Oh, what an
But anyway,
experience you wanted to give everyone.
I do now know what I'm going to do with that energy, and it's big. So Laura called it a big energy, and then it hit me big sober energy, and then the term
Yeah.
big S energy hit me like big D energy. You can Google that, Mom, but.
Or don't.
And then Keola said, actually, my friend wrote, and I said, oh, I did Google it. I said, did I just invent, I love when I think I invented sober terms. Did I just invent big S energy or big sober energy? And no. And I said on Keola call, there's even a book called
Oh, really?
Big Sober Energy. And Keola, very nice. She said, that's a friend of mine. I'll mail you a copy. And she
Oh,
actually, how nice is that? How nice is
yeah.
that?
Big sober energy. It's a totally different kind of energy, isn't it? It's um so pure. It's I like you was real. I have a really big personality, and I used to feel like I was too much for people. I was, a big bright shiny sunshine, and I was born on a full moon. I've come to realize in the past couple of years, and it makes a whole lot of sense to me. It's just, and I'm also really do like the stars and the moon, and I'm a Leo rising, which is big sun, big sun energy. Um, and I think I tried to dampen it down a little bit with alcohol, or at least make it vibe with other people in a way that was more like socially on the same, vibration. Or it was even more of an excuse sometimes when I drank to be a little bit louder or whatever. Yeah, I think,
Mm,
that's something I definitely identify with you, is that big energy that I no longer apologize for. I just take, I think, a more intentional responsibility with the frequency that I put out. Is where is it truly coming from? What is it that I am needing in this situation? I think you just know, you can ask those questions and actually know intuitively when you're not drinking. When you are drinking, it's clouded by a lot of misinformation that you're giving yourself. Like, yeah, you are sexy. Yeah, you are funny. Keep it going.
yeah. I mean, I say now, I'm truly intoxicated on life, as I think you are as well. And,
I
and
am.
I think a
It
lot of
just
people.
keeps getting better.
Yeah, I say at the end of every podcast, I stay, and then stay, stronger, sober. I always
Oh,
say,
yeah.
but I also love to say, stay sober, stay patient, because if you can, you just got to be patient. It takes a long time.
It does. It takes time, but you can get out of it as much as you can. So like in the beginning phases for me, I don't know about you, I really realized I was so excited about it. I wanted to tell everybody about it. But when I was quiet with it is when I was really learning what was happening. I thought by telling everybody about it and I was making it more real in some ways, but I also needed to trust the process of cocooning. Like, oh, I need to like kind of get quiet with this and experience the pain, experience all the thoughts. Not everything has to come out. I think that with big energy, sometimes you feel like you have to share every single moment or you're going to lose it somehow. That's where journaling really is most handy for me. But that cocooning was part of getting to a point, which I think started happening around 6 months. I remember it was in a J meeting on Reframe. And I said, I'm really starting to trust the process. And it meant not doing what I used to do, which was, oh, I figured it out now. Now I've got it figured out. Now I'm cured. Now I've got it figured it out. Like keep going to, I'm going to know one day, instead of what I've come to realize now is it's not about, oh, I know, because I no longer am trying to be right about anything. And I'm afraid of being right because I'm afraid if I think I know how to do this like sober journey now, I feel like that's when you have the most potential of deciding that you can have one drink and it won't affect you, right? It's no longer about I know, it's the knowing. The knowing is the life. Is like, oh, look at that. I am vulnerable to that. Or, oh, where am I feeling that in my body now? Like, oh, it's just like you're starting to get to know yourself. It's nice to meet me, right? Like you're just really having this brand new relationship with life by having a brand new relationship with yourself. And a part of that is being really able to be quiet with yourself as well as just loving yourself through the process and getting to know yourself and not deciding that now it's an infinite amount of knowing.
Yeah. Yep. I have a lot of things to say based on that. We have so many topics to cover. I still even have to finish the day, the day count thing and all, or my count in jail. We left off me in jail, but,
Oh yeah. Sorry. I overtook.
no, I love it. I know I absolutely love it as long as I don't forget, but I'm confident I'll remember. I just read a meme that said, not little, just this morning, on Sober Instagram, which sadly, this is slight TMI. When I was in the throes of drinking, I had more time on there because I had spent more time in the bathroom that I could be on
Yeah.
sober Instagram. And I remember for those struggling, I almost resented all the positive people and the ones having, but it sunk in just like shares. I said, I want to be those people someday. That really was a big part of my motivation, so for those that are always, might constantly be restarting or struggling. But anyway, this meme said, drinking, I almost want to pull it up, but basically said is a form of self-harm. And it really hit me. We always talk about through this sobriety recovery process, you grow to love yourself. I'd love to even jokingly quote the Whitney song. And I say, I found the greatest love of all inside of me in sobriety. And it's really
Nice.
true. And that's part of the reason, I will never self-harm myself again. So as you love yourself more, you want this more. And it is a big part. They say,
So true.
you talked about the neuroscience, and I was going to say, I've learned so much through doing my research and doing my YouTube videos. Episode number 22 is on neuroscience, and it's fascinating. And I basically base it off of this amazing keynote speech I saw this woman, Nicole Labor, give. And she, where am I going?
Nicole Labor.
Oh, the self-harm, loving yourself. Oh, I completely lost my train of thought. Oh my God, I have not had this happen.
Well, this is a journey of self-love.
Yeah.
Right.
And the self-harm, and it might have gone, I can't believe it.
I will tell you that it's radical to love yourself. And it's something you have to kind of, for me, I call it tuning and toning. It's like whenever I have those thoughts and I call them the board of directors of like all those thoughts that get me to a point of wanting to drink or hurt myself again, which I didn't realize I was doing when I was drinking, that I have to listen and love myself through that. Like, yes, I love you. I know that you're just trying to make me feel better by doing the thing that we used to do to feel better, which was have a drink. But we're going to try something. We are training ourselves to have a list of different things we can do in those situations that always required a drink before, you know?
Yeah.
And loving yourself shows you the light of great alternatives, of healthy adaptive coping mechanisms, and recognizing how your brain works is just like, oh, I love you, brain. I know you're trying to give me the easy way out, but we don't do that anymore. We stopped doing that. So we can put that choice way back in the, history banks, if you want, of what we used to do, and love ourselves for doing that before, but really love ourselves by the action we take now. That's kind of how I talk to myself.
Yeah. Well, you're nicer to that voice than I am, and I
It's
famously
practice.
well, and it's I'm torn. I famously say that you have to tell that voice to f off. By the way, and we don't want
Yeah.
to. Don't. I've learned from my editor that I can't swear on this. He says it affects the algorithm. The only time I really ever swear publicly is when I would say "f" the voice. And someone even did a speaker share on Reframe only a few months back, and I've been gone for a while. She actually gave credit, didn't say my name, but said there was a guy that used to be on here that really helped me by telling me to tell that voice to F off. And I did struggle with that because some people took that as being negative to yourself, but that voice isn't us. As I learned, there's an Edgar Tolle quote that says, that voice, what a liberation to realize that voice is not me. Who am I then? I'm the one that realizes that. So I call it myself low-level schizophrenic, because
Yeah.
it's true. That voice, what's that?
No, yeah,
Yeah.
I get that. I mean, sometimes that's why I started calling it my board of directors, because I think that, we hired that person that came in and said, let's drink about that. Let's attach drinking to everything. Like, oh, somebody's having a baby. Let's bring over a bottle of champagne. Oh, that automatic, stand up in the middle of the boardroom and say, I've got the idea. I'm the loudest. And it happened to be, alcohol for me a lot of times. Had the
Yeah.
answer. But yeah, fire. You can't use the F word. Fire that, fire that. that person. But that word is powerful. That's my favorite curse word, as I believe probably everybody's. That word is powerful when you are trying to break up with that voice and that option,
Yeah.
and that behavior. It's really powerful because it really severs. It's like, yeah, I don't know what the science is behind it, but there's some power
Oh,
behind that word when you are really just saying, no, do not call me anymore. We are over. Like, it's too tempting. You got to F off,
yeah. Do you know there's a story you told involving the voice that your daughter stood up to the voice?
Oh,
Do you recall it?
no.
So I'm going to blow your mind here.
I
So
love
your
this.
daughter once, you were out in nature, I believe, and I think you had to jump over something. You remember as I tell, I don't think, say it was a small brook, you had to jump to get to the other side. And I think you did it, or you needed she needed to jump over something. And she was very reluctant to do it. And she said to that voice, she told it to shut up. Like, shut up, voice. Do you remember it now?
No.
I am 100%. It was you. I wrote it down. That's why, but I've never forgotten it. But it's in my notes. Yeah.
I use the sober journey with my daughter a lot, who suffers from a lot of anxiety, and she has some unhealthy coping mechanisms that she's trying to change. And I just let her know that, a big part of changing that, you can tell it to shut up, but, you know, loving yourself as well. You can say, shut up, but it's okay. I know we this is what we did in the past. We're just doing something different now.
Right.
Like, showing that love to yourself, I think, has been transformative, and I'm able to use that with parenting quite a bit.
Yeah. And I did evolve kind of my thing, although I think early on it's not the worst idea. I mean, I literally every day
Yeah.
would work on me. It's a cycle of insanity where you wake up every day and say, I'm not going to drink today. And then that voice just works on you all day, which I'm learning. It just alcohol cues get stronger throughout the
Hmm.
day. For me, it was always thinking about going to my pizza shop. So the closer we'd get to it, the stronger the cues and the stronger the voice. But I'd shower every day around 2 o'clock. I'd go to the shop at like 3:30. So I'd shower at around 2, and I'd get out of the shower. It'd be working on me in the shower, and I'd get out and say, F off to the voice, and I kept saying it. And I've realized it's a series of 1-second decisions that you have to, when that voice pipes up, you got to tell it to pipe down that quickly. 1-second decision. I love to talk about David Goggins, his former Navy SEAL. It's got a book about it, but and it relates to this. He said it's a 1-second decision. It's whether to go on or, to quit or to go on, and that's often what it is. We lay down to the voice because it's just so damn persistent, and it thinks it knows what's best. So I have kind of evolved to say, okay, voice, I know there was a time you're trying to protect me. There was a time that alcohol did work for me. Absolutely. I was a late bloomer. I didn't even take a sip till 3 months into college, and I was miserable for those first 3 months, but I was so strong, I made it through. I mean, it's unbelievable that I made it 3 months, starting with the day I walked in with my parents. There was a group swilling beers in my particular dorm room.
Oh, I remember that story. That's right.
And I did not drink. I did not drink. And I didn't even hang out with
You had a conviction then. What was that about?
I was a runner. I knew back then. I realized this recently. I realized I knew it was poison back then.
Yeah.
Amazingly. And I said, I will never drink while I'm a competitive runner. And I was running on Providence, but it was a very top Division I school. I wasn't scholarship. I could have been on like a D2 school. I was a good runner, but not at that level, though. I truly think I could have rose, but we were running 12 miles a day. Majority of the team was from Ireland.
Fit into that, doesn't.
Yeah. And Sally was just one more place I didn't fit in. I never fit in almost anywhere, except I did fit in the cross-country team in my high school, but not in college. The school newspaper is the only place I fit in college. I was a features editor. Thank God I found that. But I didn't even fit into the running team because they were all from Ireland. It was like a different language with those heavy accents. I mean, I needed captions to understand them. I mean, literally. So bottom line, I said, that's it. After the cross-country season, I said, I'm done. I need to have a life. And that's when I first drank. And I discovered the magic. It gave me instant, my favorite story, which regulars hear a lot. But then we went out to a club. I drank. The next day, I said to these two girls, oh my God, I had so much fun last night. I was talking to anybody. And they said, have you ever drank before? And I lied and said, yes. I so wish. I'm so mad now. It's like, what an opportunity to be like, no, can you believe it? I've never drank. I didn't even sip off my parents' drinks, where my brother and sister did, who amazingly don't have the gene. So funny.
How interesting that you didn't drink at all, and then at all.
Yeah.
I remember taking sips from my parents' drinks from as early as I can remember.
Yeah, my father drank whiskey sours, and my siblings loved to sip it, and not me. I hated it, and yeah, it's amazing. If we have time to get in the hereditary, I'd be curious your family, but I have a note for that. But in mine, 9 cousins on the Irish side, and 7 of us have the gene, and the only 2 that don't and are super Irish take after that side. The only 2 that don't are my brother and sister, who completely take after the Italian side. So, and that doesn't,
interesting.
Yep.
Culturally, are you expected to kind of drink culturally, like being Irish? Is that like a part of your family culture?
Yeah, and I was about to say, for people that take things literally, it doesn't mean every Irish person has a gene and every Italian doesn't. People I'm sure there are Italians with alcoholism, but not in my family. My father can take it or leave it, as can my brother and sister. I say he's got a full bar at his house every time I go. I don't go often. When I do, I just marvel at it because, as you know, alcoholics could not have full bars because we would drink it all. So, and my sister hasn't drank practically since college, other than she'll have an occasional mudslide. And my father will drink Bloody Marys at breakfast. It drives me crazy in that it's like, really? And you're not going to drink the rest of the day? Like that, as our people always say, like, how do they do that? But they process it differently, and that's my whole goal, is to help people understand this disorder. We just process it differently. It's comical that people think we process it the same and we just lack the willpower, and that's just not how it works. And I don't.
Yeah, I don't know. I have an interesting relationship with booze.
Yeah.
I can buy a bottle of I have a full bar still in the house. I don't I've I've thrown away some things I just forget because it's just put away, but I never really had a big relationship with liquor. Um
Oh, you're talking liquor versus beer and wine? Oh, whoa.
so yeah, I never I mean I always had a bar. I could always mix cocktails. I could always go for a cocktail, but it could be in my house. I sit in my house for years.
I noticed you
Um
didn't really light up when I said, as you know, our people can't have full bars.
Yeah, my
And
relationship with alcohol, really, I've come to realize was more about I really equate my relationship to alcohol as a relationship. It was, uh, unbeknownst to me, the boyfriend that I had since I was 14 years old, that became very important to me, that attached itself to me with everything. Celebratory, connection, boredom, sadness, a lot, mainly connection, but also like, time of day. It's 4 o'clock,
yep.
or going to the airport. Where's the bar? Where's the bathroom? I realized I felt like I was being. You remember those commercials for smoking where it would show? I thought they were really powerful. Where like it show a kid inside watching TV or whatever, and he keeps getting pulled, dragged outside by a cigarette.
No.
Um, it was really that was like you were being dragged. Like you're in a relationship, you have to please the cigarette. I kind of think I was in a relationship like that with alcohol, which also had a chemical dependence, but I think it was more the attachment. And so now when I think of alcohol, I think of it as we dated. You will probably always be slightly attractive to me, but you're not good for me. You don't enhance my life. And how many relationships have you been in, or especially dating or whatever, where you're like, yeah, we've had fun. We've definitely had fun. But are you enhancing my life? No, not at all. In fact, you take me backwards, and then I'm like, need to bring you everywhere. You might still look good, but you're not good for me. So it's like that Dua Lipa song I think of, that I've got the rules, like where
Oh,
she sings it or whatever, but at the end, if you call that guy, you're going to be in that same situation. Alcohol has shown me everything it has to offer, how much fun it can be, how terrible it can be. I know the ride. I know that relationship. I don't want to be in it anymore. So I'm not ever answering the call. I'm not going to go flirt with it. I'm not going to imagine what it would be like if this time, maybe it'll be better this time, like, no. Alcohol is kind of a ex-boyfriend that will always be slightly hot, but never good for you.
wow. I love that
You know?
song. New rules. I cheated and Googled it. And so, one, don't pick up the phone. You know he's only calling because he's drunk and alone. Two, don't let him in. You have to kick him out again. Three, all right. Yeah, great.
If
And
you're under
so,
him, you're not getting over him. That's the end of that song part, which is funny. It's like, yeah, it's a silly addiction that can seem more and more silly the more separation you have from it, and realize that it attached to so much of my life. Talk about boring. Like, what a boring life,
yeah,
that's filled with drinking. And it talked me into thinking it was more fun to have it in my life. But honestly, once you start to heal and discover who you really are, to be able to how brave and vulnerable to be able to walk away from your pizza shop and do something, follow your passion with confidence and with trepidation, but know that you stopped drinking. So what a great bedrock for everything else you're doing in life. Like, I did that. So what else can I do? I can believe in anything now. I quit drinking. Like, that's a huge thing to do in this world. Getting easier and easier, thank goodness. So many places to go, so much support, so many options to like drink instead of, if that works for you. You know, it, it luckily has more support than it ever has in our lifetime. But I never knew that I wouldn't drink. And now that I'm on the other side of drinking, it is just like infinitely the potential of really embracing this life is there. And, you know, alcohol is a ceiling. It shows you its potential and you know
Mm.
exactly what it looks like. You've been there many, many times before. And it's like, you want to feel that way again? You know what you get with it. And Static calls it a debt collector. It is such a debt collector. It'll give you exactly what you know it will give you, and it will come back to collect the debt. And the older you get, and the more you've used it, the worse that debt is physically. And also it puts poison on your relationships and your potential and you being who you truly are. So, like, why would I call that guy? I'm not picking up the phone.
Yeah, it's funny. I shared that I had bought a car last year, and I said it was a 2021, so you call it a new car, but I said I said I would never buy a new car because they're depreciating assets. And someone put in the chat that drinking is an appreciating asset.
So
So
true.
I love that. I love that. And I discovered this song Miss Me More by Kelsey Ballerina. I discovered, and I feel like I'm the one who made this discovery. It is about basically leaving a bad boyfriend. It is identical to the drinking thing. She says, and you talked about how boring, the relation. She said, I retired my red lipstick because you said you didn't like it. I didn't wear my high heel shoes because I couldn't be taller than you. I didn't want to lose my friends, but now it's hard to even find them. It's what you wanted, ain't it? It's what you wanted. And there's more, I'm going to go on, but they talk about how alcohol, that voice just wants to isolate you and kill you, is how some say it. And that's amazing that the lyric talks about she lost her friends. And she goes on to say, I thought I'd miss you. I thought it hurt me. I thought I'd miss you, but I miss me more.
Yes, I love that.
And yeah,
because you do go through a period, especially your first year without alcohol, where you're just kind of being like, who am I without alcohol? You know?
Yeah.
And it can hurt, but it doesn't hurt. It hurts in a different way. It's a new way, and it's exponential. It's like once you go through that pain, you recognize what that was. You start to love yourself through it. It doesn't hurt. You recognize it, and you recognize how to cope with it to then level up. You keep leveling up, and you don't have the opportunity to level up when you're drinking. It's impossible.
I love that. And you talked about the ceiling. I recently made a note that drinking is a ceiling. I made a note recently. Drinking put a ceiling on my potential.
Yeah.
Boom. Yeah. That's how I know. Because I had a girlfriend. She was like, I don't think your drinking is that bad. Why do you think it's so bad? And I said, because I know that I wake up every day mentally defeated because I continue to disappoint myself every single day. And yeah, there's no way you can fulfill your potential.
It degrades your trust muscles. You really don't have the opportunity to build your trust muscles when you're drinking because especially if you don't want to be in the relationship with alcohol anymore, every time you do visit it or pick up the phone every morning, you're like, shit, like, I said I was going to do that and I didn't, you're not building your trust muscles. You're like degrading trust in yourself, which is what kind of life is that?
Yeah. And speaking of life, Reframe was always big on what's your why. And I said my why was winning. When I quit for 3.5 years, which I have to recap in a second, I was winning. I was winning life, although I wasn't really having fun because I did it alone. But I was building so much resilience. So, I'll quickly segue to that to say that. So again, 11 years ago, now I think almost 12, I had this rock bottom. Well, it will be 12 years in August. This rock bottom still took me almost a year to quit, but I got really sick. I was in diverticulitis, nothing to do with drinking, but I progressed so much that I was in the most pain of my life, and almost to that self-harm thing. It was like, I never want to do that kind of again, that wasn't related to it, but I said, I never want to inflict self-harm again. I never want to be in any pain. And that was a big motivator. And also my neighbor told me he'd gone 7-8 years doing it alone. And I'm very open to suggestions. So like, if he can do it, I can do it. So where I want to go with this is that I built up 3.5 years of doing hard things sober. And that is a resilience bank that stays with you,
Yeah.
When you do slip, you deplete it a little bit. But as I say, you don't start when you start over, start day one. You don't start from zero. You start from experience.
Right.
Good one.
Yeah.
So I do feel like I have way more days. And actually our leader, Eric, CEO of TLC, says, you have much more, you've made much more progress than your day count shows. He said that to me very early in my sobriety, and it's true. So, because you were kind of going there as far as like, oh, the lessons you'll learn after year one and all that stuff. I feel like I'm right there with you and my accountability partner. I feel like those 3.5 years are basically tacked on to the year I'm about to hit on Tuesday. And I really have much, much more than that. So yeah, my old college roommate's a big AA guy. He's like, you're doing a podcast? He's like, he's like, I'm 7 years sober. They still don't want me speaking, outside of meetings. They're really big on that. And I do also think I happen to have, and this is, I brought up Keola earlier. She said she did a speaker share once talking about her own life and said, she's a coach. Her father's a coach. And she said, I have a gift for it. And I loved hearing someone admit that they have, or not afraid to say that they have a gift. So I now say it. My buddy Matt thinks it sounds, conceited. And there's a fine line between confidence and conceit. And sober confidence is real. And I do think I have a gift. I can take anything I hear or read about sobriety and internalize it and then translate it for the layman or into something inspirational or whatever. And I read a great quote where it said, when you discover your gift, you find your area of authority. So again, someone might be like, this guy's only got a year. What's he doing with the podcast? But I do feel like I do kind of have a gift speaking about this. And that's why that's my goal.
I think that, I think that it's a gift to be able to share, to be able to be witness and learn from other people's experience, no matter where they are. I think I tend to avoid people coming to a place where they know, that happens in the sharing in meetings and group meetings where people start to give advice. I have to turn off all of my judgments about that, because I remember what it was like. You like what I was saying about knowing versus I know versus I'm in the knowing, like you feel like, oh, I got it. I figured this out. Now I can share it, and not realizing that you're actually still growing. We live in this place where there needs to be this destination usually, but it really is a journey. Many people aren't they don't like that word because it is very used, but it honestly is a journey. It's not a destination, and you can share your experience, but it's yours. It is your experience. There's going to be some commonalities because your body is physically healing, and we all have human bodies, as far as I know, so the experiences will ring true for a lot of people around the same time, but sometimes, that unearthing of discovering who you are happens at different timelines for people. But I think it's important to hear from somebody at 9 days and where they are vulnerably. I hear people on the meetings at 12 days who are like, I feel so much better. But yeah, if I remember at 12 days, I did feel so much better. And I wanted to sing it from the rooftops, And then at 30 days, I'm like, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? And I think knowing that that's a natural ebb and flow of the actual journey is important. And you're at this point of being able to absorb and share in a way that is tangible for a lot of people, in a way we feel your excitement. That's really a wonderful addition to the support and resources people have. So just don't let people dim your light like alcohol did, you're vulnerable too. Like, that's the big part about it. If you were just like, I figured it out, so do this, here's the recipe, that's not as much of a benefit for me personally. Like, benefit for me is to have people just really be on the journey and share their journey with me. That it helps me tremendously.
Yeah. Wow. Again, you've opened up several subjects. One, the pink cloud, which we talked all the time on Reframe. TLC doesn't come up that often, almost at all, but we talk so much. But that is I could do it without cheating, but I'm going to read the Google one. It says, intense euphoria, optimism, and a feeling of well-being that some individuals experience during early sobriety. I stress some because Sadly, not everybody does. But I need to, for me at least, early sobriety, it's and beyond. It is continuing. You know, I mentioned Tom from VA, was
Yeah.
my first podcast guest. His Insta handle is Pink Cloud Life.
Oh,
And I
that's right. That's him. Yeah.
almost wish it was Pink Cloud for Life because he's still experiencing it, as am I. And I do feel like I'm hoping to keep it going for life, you know, and it's just,
Why not? Why not make life like that?
yeah, I'm in this, you know, I might even produce a musical based on It's a Wonderful Life. Someone
I
just
love it.
on a call just the other day, someone said, yeah, we need to do a TLC musical. And I said, oh, I've already got one in the works. It's in my head, but it's so good. This awesome woman on there talked about people slip all the time. And she said, it's the Slippers. We're in the Slippers Club. So part of the musical, there's going to be a group of like ladies singing. Could be anyone singing, but they
I'm
have a
so
slipper.
grateful for the slippers. I have to say, I'm so grateful because you know how many of us who haven't slipped have thought about slipping, like intentionally slipping more times than we even are at a point of being able to admit, I'm sure. And it's like, oh, thank you for turning that corner and looking around that corner for me and coming back and being brave enough to come back. I mean, that is a level of bravery that is tremendous, is to be able to come back and share the experience of it and what you learned. And I
Yeah.
have not yet had anybody come back from a slip saying, you know what? I'm gonna go back to drinking. Way better. That's one of the things that really, you know, that meme that you shared earlier from Magic in the Middle is one of the things that really was a huge aha for me was I like to have fun. So I always thought if you were going to be an alcoholic that had to quit drinking or talk yourself into getting, you know, quitting drinking, you had to be at a really miserable point and have a relationship with alcohol that was dark. A lot of my relationship with alcohol was light. It was fun. It was partying. I was kind of like, you know, I thought the life of the party, and I felt my people pleaser was like, well, how could I not be the life of the party again? I'm going to be that, you know, doldrum person that's coming in that doesn't drink. Oh, there she is. She doesn't drink, you know. So I was really afraid of that. That was definitely the people pleaser unlock for me. And it was like, oh gosh, nobody's counting on you to have a good time. But where was I going with that? The thing that got me was it's way more fun not drinking.
Mm,
And I really believe that. And I really know how much fun it's a totally different fun. It's a fun that it wasn't attainable while drinking. It's so much more fun. I am so much more me and able to really love who I'm showing up as. And if I thought drinking was more fun, I would have gone back to it. If anybody knows me, fun is important. Pleasure is my number 3 value. It always has been. Like peace, love, and pleasure. Whenever I do the value assessment test, pleasure always comes in right there in the middle, no matter how much I try and bat it down. But I wonder how many people who have a relationship with alcohol are like me, which is like, it was about pleasure. I really attached it to pleasure a lot.
yeah.
So I still am looking for pleasure in life. If it's a value of mine, it means that I really like pleasure. And I really find this way more pleasurable. And the pink cloud, I'm so glad I got it because it showed me how great it could be. And it's way better than it was when I thought of drinking as the pink cloud. No, turns out it's not even that high up to be a cloud, you know? It's a
Yeah.
ceiling.
Yeah. Oh my God. Again, a million things, but and I got to finish my George Bailey reference. It's a Wonderful Life. You know, he comes back to the same life he had, but he so appreciates it. You know, he says, "Oh, Merry Christmas, Mr. Potter! Merry
Yeah,
Christmas, you wonderful old savings and loan." You know, the same savings and loan he hated before he was, you know, brought back to life. And then he goes into the house, and the knob falls off of the railing, and he kisses it and puts it back on where he just cursed it. And
totally.
that's how I feel now. It's like, you know, I thought I had this miserable life because I gave a lot up. I moved out of Boston and bought a friggin' pizza joint and all that stuff. And now it's like, I love it. Life is great and life is fun. And I got some great quotes for you. One guy said, this guy's been sober 40 years, pretty stoic guy, but he said, I might not always look like I'm always having fun on the outside, but I'm always having fun on the inside. Boom. And how true is that? I mean,
Totally.
I love it. I love it. And then one on my community, this woman, Steph, shared, she's like, I'm having so much fun in this journey. She said, this SHIT is amazing. And then this leader, Chris, literally said this. People think we're making this up, but he goes, however much fun you think you can have without alcohol, double it times 20. He goes, the world changes, your definition of fun changes, what you think is fun changes, and love and connection, everything gets redefined and reclaimed in sobriety.
Oh yeah.
That might have even
Reclamation's
come from Laura
huge.
McCowan, the last part of that. I always try to give her credit, but or no, that I think was him. She has a different quote, but yeah, go on.
No, reclamation was big in my journey at first. Yeah, like reclaiming things that I only associated with drinking or that I thought made me sad. Like the place I got married, I literally have gone back to reclaim that waterfall and that hike to be a new part of my journey. Like, oh, I went on this hike, at 18 months sober, and I reclaimed it. That's probably a whole other podcast. Reclaiming your life is pretty great. I think that's a part of the recovery, which is like, oh, you realize you always have a chance to do it again and do it better, and yeah, joy is infinite. It's infinite. It really is. Like, and I like that because it means that pink cloud, you can always be on it, at any moment you want to be, because you've given yourself a chance to get out of that room. That was the room that alcohol, like, what showed you it was the peak of. Like, this is it. This is how happy you can be, how sad you can be. Like, this is it. You walk out that door.
Yeah, yeah, and I say I've just become a dopamine fiend now, just seeking natural dopamine. Even just, I think cold shower finishes have become such a key part of my recovery. They say it gives up to
Cool.
they say it gives up to a 250% dopamine hit that lasts for up to 3 hours, and I still share all the time. And I mean, it sounds like you're just out living life, but even that compared to the life we had is just, I just can't
Well,
believe
my
it.
life going plant powered has really changed my relationship with myself and my body, and just seeking to have as much fun and to feel as good as I can. I'm pretty much addicted to, we all can find some sort of addiction, but my addiction is to feeling good. And whether that be through the words I use, the actions I take, what I put into my body, what I put out there, being responsible for my frequency is important to me, and I'm finding my secret sauce, and everybody has their own. And
Right.
luckily I quit drinking so that I could then fast track myself into like knowing what works for me and knowing that it's so much is attainable.
Yeah. And I still want to dig into your background and whether, yeah, the extent of your drinking, like not because it's not hereditary for everybody. You can just drink yourself into the disorder as well. And then there's a fine line between someone who's just a problem drinker or are, an alcoholic. And even that, I'd like
There's
to,
a lot of alcoholism in my family.
there is.
My
Yeah.
mom's a
Okay.
severe alcoholic. My
Okay.
grandma was an alcoholic. Her dad was an alcoholic. uh my mom's dad was an alcoholic. My dad quit drinking the day I was born, and never looked back. So he's been sober for 50 years.
Wow.
But he's loves coffee in an addictive way.
Oh, yeah. Me too. I actually have a quote
I
from
do
you.
too.
What's that?
I do too. I love coffee.
Yeah.
It
I
is
have a
like,
quote from you saying it made you irritable, which I do say I was drinking it to the point I would get irritable. And I'm like, what the hell
yeah.
am I doing? I don't need it. So I'm actually just in the last week and a half, I've been trying to wean off. I developed a real crutch with it where I couldn't get out of the house in the morning and go to the gym. I couldn't share. I couldn't go shopping, anything without chugging some coffee or just quickly
Yeah.
sipping it for no reason. And I know I can be just water fueled is all I need.
I just remember Keola saying something because people were really having trouble with transfer addictions in our old reframe meetings. And she said something about, people were eating too much ice cream or whatever. It's like, well, you don't kill somebody while driving on ice cream. You know,
Yeah,
like,
I love.
so just be a little bit nicer to yourself that this is just a part of the steps, but what you're recognizing are patterns. And when you recognize patterns, for me, the magic was radically loving myself. Like, okay, I am getting irritable. It could be the coffee. Like, that's okay. Let's try something else. But look, we're not drinking. So good job, Koki.
Right.
Good job. Now I replace caffeine. I replace coffee with mate. Like I make a French press of mate in the morning, 2 or 3 days a week, and that's helped me not have so much of that coffee caffeine irritability that I was experiencing for a little while. And I only recognized it because I quit drinking and can now recognize patterns in my body.
How do you spell mate?
MATE, like mate.
Huh. I don't think
Yeah,
I
I
know that.
really like. There's a mate brand that does dark roast, and so they add like chicory leaf and dandelion and things that give it more of a roasted flavor. That is a great alternative for coffee for me. And it's a
Oh,
different kind of stimulation. It's you still have like the stimulus of like that you get from coffee, but it's not as I don't know, it's just not as like electric as coffee is. It's more steady.
I'll tell you what Google says. It provides a smoother, calmer, and more gradual buzz than
Yeah.
coffee. Yeah. Due to its unique combination of natural compounds, one more line, which works synergistically to produce a balanced energy boost without the jittery highs or crashes commonly associated with coffee. Ooh, we might have a sponsor opportunity here.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah. Mate.
Wow. I don't think I've even heard of it somehow. And you know what's funny? I
Hell,
put
you
in,
do.
oh, yeah.
Now you hear about it all the time. It's like learning a new word. You're like, people use this word, and then you hear it on the radio. You know.
Yeah. Yes. And there's a term for that, right? That happens all the time. And you know, it's
Yeah.
funny. I put in MATE and I said, well, I got to add another word because it's to get the right match. So I put in mate coffee. And of course, it comes up with coffee mate creamers was the first match. But then it
Oh,
came
how
up.
funny! Is that still around?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yep. But then, yeah,
Especially
yerba.
East Coast. East Coast, they love their creamer.
Well, that's another thing. If I drink iced coffee, I drink it black because I do the whole intermittent fast thing. So,
Oh
and I was
yeah.
only making it like 30% caffeinated. And then I water it down. So I basically was like brown water that I'm sitting there
Yeah.
chugging before I go to the gym or share or anything else. So I knew it was doing nothing for me. So that's why I gave it up. People like, listen, don't worry about it. That's a fine addiction, and it's true, like first world problems, sober problems, I'm
Mm-hmm.
addicted to coffee, big deal. But I didn't like that I was using it as a crutch. It was holding me back, actually. And
It just shines a light on all the other things that are potentially like holding you back. Quitting
I,
drinking, like it's not an excuse to then say, well, but I'm going to be held down by something else just because I'm not held down by alcohol anymore. And we know a lot of people like that, that are still so miserable not drinking and just wish they could drink like a normal person. To me, that is definitely not a road I could go down, which is just like why would you want to be held down by that again? It's like
we have so much
toxic
more to.
ex-boyfriend.
Well,
This time you can make it work.
yeah, I'm the only one I've heard say this about it's, and I get nervous saying it like without a trigger warning, whatever, but it's like an abusive boyfriend, right?
Mm-hmm.
We all judge a woman, sadly, typically, that goes back to an abusive relationship, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yet it's the exact same thing with alcohol. We romanticize it. We only remember the good. We can't imagine our life without it, right? If you heard a
Yeah.
woman say that's why she went back, you'd think she
Yeah.
was crazy, right? But it's the same thing. I compare it to the old guy Brooks in Shawshank Redemption that recommits. That he's about to get released, and then he holds up a knife to a guy in the library before he gets out because he can't imagine his life outside of it. We can't,
Totally.
it's the old cage without bar, or George
Yeah.
Lucas said it. We're all living in cages without bars or prisons without walls, and we can't imagine our life without it. And someone said on TLC, it's like living without skin initially. It's tough. It's those first.
It's vulnerability. It's real
Yeah.
vulnerable. I mean, you putting the keys on the counter to that pizza shop was a real vulnerable move. you know?
Mm.
It's like those dreams of being naked, in a public place or whatever. Like I used to have dreams about being naked at the airport. Like, I'm supposed to go on a trip and I'm in my underwear or whatever because I didn't pack or but like if you think about being just open to whatever happens, like you actually that's a real potential and a possibility when you don't drink. And when you drink, you're held down without really knowing it, kind of, you know?
Yeah.
Um
Vulnerability has
yeah.
been it's been key to this process. Brene Brown says vulnerability is our greatest act of courage. And I found that so true. When I share, my early shares were so tearful. Not as much refrain. Those were boisterous. But then TLC, when I really started reset my count and all that, the first time I tried to start redeclaring my count, I didn't share in a week because I couldn't open my mouth. I felt so defeated. I knew I couldn't open my mouth to share without crying. And I finally just said enough is enough, and I did it. And sure enough, I opened my mouth, I cried, I declared my day one, but I got through it. And
I
then
think there's not enough you can say about sharing.
yeah, oh
I mean, it could be a whole podcast that we talk about, but sharing in a meeting, which a lot of people stay off camera, a big step for them is just being on camera. There are many people who share without a camera because that's their own thing they're going through. Uh, it really is a growth process within yourself. It's the work kind of lies there. I mean, I know every time I share in a meeting, I talk myself out of it at least 50 times. Like, what do I have to offer? Why would anybody want to hear me? What am I sharing because I think I know better? Like, I'll go through all of the board of directors is on point, right? At that point, where it's like, don't raise your hand, give room for people who've never shared before. What is the purpose of your sharing? I start thinking about all that stuff. But the cool thing about sharing, what I've come to do is like a big part of it is you're releasing in a safe space that you're almost just kind of uncovering what's going on for you in a way that like is so cathartic and wonderful and helps you heal. And you've then laid it out there in this vulnerable way without attachment to how people are going to take it. Those are the best shares for me, where I do really feel like I'm just channeling. Like I don't have it prepared. I did have a thought, but then another thought came in, but you did want to share something. But a lot of times it just comes down to being like, I've laid it out there vulnerably in a place where I've landed. There's a quote, and I can't remember who it is, but most people know it, I know, but it's about, fear and bravery is like throwing yourself into the abyss because you finally jumped in, but realizing there was a feather bed on the other end,
ooh,
instead of like the fear that you have of like, should I do something? Should I jump in? Like, I shouldn't jump in because I'm afraid of what's on the other end. But when you find out, like, there's a feather bed on the other end because you did it and you feel so much better. And then that builds your trust muscles and your bravery to be able to do it again. Yeah, there's so much to be said about sharing.
yeah. Oh my God. I do have a YouTube on that, so people check it out. But yeah,
Oh, good. Yes.
I can't encourage it enough. And that's a great quote, by the way. Yeah, by hurling yourself into the abyss and discovering it's a feather bed. Yeah, this is how the magic is done. That's a whole nother thing I want to talk about. We won't have time today, but in fact, I think this is your hard stop, which was an hour and 45 minutes ago. You were like, didn't even think we'd get there, but I knew we
I
would.
didn't either. I kind of knew too. I'm happy to come back whenever you want.
Absolutely. And is your
It's
stop
really
that
nice
hard?
to share a space with you. It's been a while.
Oh, it's amazing. As Tom said, Tom and I did about a 3-parter, though much shorter. But every time he's like, "This felt like I was at a meeting," So
Yeah.
it's so great. Should we even attempt to close a few loops, or you
Sure.
do you have 5 minutes? Or
Sure. What time is it right now? Your time?
quarter? Yeah, it's quarter of the hour, so 4:45.
Okay.
Yeah, we should have said you're in Oregon. Is that how you pronounce it?
No.
I was before you.
Not
said Oregon.
there's definitely an Oregonian. But I'm more of an Oregonian. I'm actually born and raised in Alaska, then moved to Oregon, then moved to Brooklyn, then moved back to Oregon. So I've done a lot of United States kind of feeling. I love the East Coast though, and when I did an ancestry thing, I realized that a lot of my mom's side of the family, they're all came from France, especially, but like went to French Canada, like Montreal and Quebec, and then came down to Vermont and New York. And I had, the minute I stepped foot in New York, I felt at home. And from a girl growing up in Anchorage, Alaska, that is strange, you know.
Wow.
The biggest city I'd ever, you know, really had resided in was Anchorage. So, but there's something to be said about that. So the East Coast definitely has a part of my heart.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. And I knew you were from Alaska, by the way. I meant to say you're in
But I've lived in
Oregon.
I've lived in Eugene, Oregon is where I live. It's a really cool, you know, college town. I went to college here, but it definitely holds my values pretty well. Like I can get very farm to table, very about like natural healing and, you know, personal development. It's a great place to be. I don't have a lot of friction here on growing as a
Yeah.
person. So that's good. And it's a great place to raise my children. So it's great.
Nice. And for the sake of time, I don't want to labor on it, but a lot of people, at least here, say Oregon as if there's an E in the end. So I heard
it's Oregon.
Or's way easy to remember as Oregon, like it's Gun, but it's really Oregon.
Oregon. Like the organs in your body. Think of it that way.
Oh, I like that. That's good stuff. So, all right. There's a million loops we have to close, but I'll remember this. I'll remember them all because I'm going to.
Yeah, I'll be quiet.
Oh, and well, I think I'm just going to pick one, which I think is such an important one and one of my favorite stories. Well, I have two. There was a guy in Reframe. I love this story. On the men's call, I would share, and I talked to you. I've calmed down so much from those early days. Believe it or not, as I said on PLC, I used to give such winded shares. My friend Rick even said, he's like, Cappy, I like it much better when you just kind of pick one topic and talk about it. Instead, when you have like 10 and you go on. The problem, I always shared towards the end and we were allowed to crosstalk. So I'd have so many things to cover. Although the advice thing, you hit on that, you know, people do not, they allowed you to give advice, but people hate it when you give it in the form of advice. In fact, I was laughing when you were talking about advice because I love to say, you can't give advice, but what you do is, and I used to laugh about this with Static and things, you just say, this worked for me. Or Static would tell me to do, tell others. No, what you do is say, this worked for me. But where I start to laugh is, and by default, that means this worked for me, so you should do it.
Right.
And I do mean that. And I do think, and people say, don't give advice. And some guy says, like, something.
I just say in my journey what's working for me. But I also like to give advice. So I'm trying to work on that myself.
I love to do it. But so anyway, on the men's call, I was going, talking a mile a minute as always. And I was talking about the voice this one day, which we totally have to talk more about that next time. But this guy put in the chat, this guy Justin, I'll never forget, he put in the chat, he is so exhausted. But here's the best part. I convinced myself he was talking about the voice. And some people do give the voice a name. So I was like, and I said to my friend Carrie, who's on Reframe, I said, Carrie, I texted her, I said, oh my God. At first I thought this guy was talking about me, but he must have been talking about the voice. And Carrie's like, oh, that's so funny. She goes, I totally would have thought he was talking about me. Well, guess what? The next week I shared again. He blatantly, there was no mistake about it. He bashed me again in the chat. So he was talking about me all along. So I love that story. But the other one, you talked about no one ever regrets quitting drinking, yet we all go back to it. In fact, those of us who've quit for many years, such as myself, I quit for 3.5 years, and now this is 6.5 years later almost. So it took me 5.5 years to start really fully quitting again for life. And there's a whole nother thing. They say it takes about 6 years from once you decide you want to quit. But I also have a theory on that the more work you do, you can
Really? They do say that? I didn't know that.
You know, that comes from Annie Grace, loves saying that actually. But topic for next time about doing the work. I think the more work you do, the more you can accelerate that. And I've done a ton of work in the past year that I think really, even though
I can hear it in your voice. I'm sure you can hear it in mine too. You know, there starts to be more of a resolve to the experience that happens, as opposed to the excitement you have when you think you've figured it out, right? Like 3 months in.
Yeah.
I'm in 90 days, so I could be a coach now.
Yeah.
The more humility that happens the longer you have, you know?
Yeah. So what I was saying, so it's harder when you quit for a longer time. It's harder to quit again. Strangely enough, I knew within a
Oh, I
week.
bet.
Such a discussion for next time. But I tried to drink normally. I knew within a week. Well, what I like to say is, it turns out I could, but not for long. And I knew within a week I couldn't. And here I am, 6.5 years later, just coming up on a year. Thank you very much. But by the way, a woman on TLC just hit 4 years. Listen to this. She once quit for 4 years, 30 years ago, and she just hit 4 years again. It took her 30 years to get back to 4 years.
Wow.
And which I almost hesitate, that can sound demoralizing to hear that, but it just shows what we're up against. But she didn't have a sobriety community until 4 years ago, and that's what helped.
Totally. That's where I've always hear the consistency is having the community, having these wonderful places that are outside of just one choice have helped people so much on actually being successful.
Yeah, yeah, it's amazing. So I'll end it with this story that a woman on TLC shared. She was at Augusta, the Masters golf tournament in Georgia. I have a great story. She had a neighbor that sounds like she might be one of us. So the woman who shared the story she was not drinking. She told the friend who got her the tickets, she was like, I don't drink. I'm not carrying your drinks. Yet she found herself carrying this woman's drinks. And she was yelling at the woman like, I told you I'm not carrying this for you. Well, this guy overheard her, so knew that she was not drinking. This is such an amazingly poignant story. Sad, but so true. He turns to her. He's drinking. And he says to her, I once quit for 8 years. It was the best 8 years of my life.
Yeah.
Yet he was drinking. And I say
I've
that
heard that. I've heard that a number of times. This past year the past couple of months of my life, I've had people tell me that as they're drinking, as if they're almost apologizing to me somewhat. Like, I wish I was there with you again, kind of.
Right. And don't you wish you could just get there? A woman just shared that she's now 5 years, and she basically said, for those of you that are still struggling, I don't think she used the word I like to or she might have said under the spell. I saw it under the brainwashing. It's almost like hypnosis. I've never been hypnotized, but I've come to learn they essentially know they're being hypnotized, but they can't do anything about it.
Absolutely.
And that's what this is. Yeah,
it's power. I only realized in the past 6 months how much power I was giving to something that didn't deserve any power anymore. I needed to take my power back. It's you're giving in, even though you can be powerful, you're giving the power to something else to decide whether or not it's. And the people I see who struggle the most in reframe still give, or in the communities I'm in, still give so much power to alcohol. And I hear, especially when they say I want to drink like a normal person, it's like, oh yeah, you really are. You still think the power lies there. You need to take the power back,
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to say you need to, because nobody wants to hear that, but I need to really reclaim my power. I have the power in the situation. At any moment I could drink if I wanted to, but I like the power I have not drinking, and I want to hold on to that power.
Yeah. And you reminded me of a quote that helped me get going long ago. A buddy said, when I kept trying to moderate, and he said, I kept telling him my moderation plan every week, updating it, which never worked. And he said,
Yeah.
The problem is, he said, you think you're in control of that plan, if you will. He said, this is out of your control. And that was one of my beginnings of the end. And, but I was going to wait till next time, but unless you cut me off, I wanted to say how the biggest challenge to anyone like yourself or others that have a long time or any decent amount of time is that thought that maybe I can drink normally. And as I said, you can. That's the scary part. Just not for long, because that's it. I did it for about a week. I just had a couple shots the first night I drank, and then I went to a party, or it was a gathering a real estate friend had, a couple beers. But before I knew it, within a week, I was back to pre-drinking and been drinking way too fast. And yeah, there is no cure.
What's normal about attaching poison to anything, really. I mean, we get it no matter what. Microplastics, everything. It's all out there. But
Right.
what's normal about putting something intentionally into your body that causes cancer? I don't understand where there's any normal. I mean, it just starts to become very bizarre the farther away you get from it, I think. For me,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't, I have to debunk it as, I have to give it zero power. It's an ex-boyfriend. There's just no real, there's no reason to get back together.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And on that, I got to go pick up my kids.
Yeah. And on that, I'll just say I do liken it to celiacs. They have to give up gluten and they just accept it because they know they could die from it. Same, but we have a much harder time accepting it, even though we could die and people die every day of it. But it's often a slower.
It's still poison for the people that can drink it on a normal time, balance, or don't have a dependency to it. It's still poison.
Yeah. Yeah. And that is true. And that's why you get hangovers. And that's why it is amazing. Your body is trying to detoxify from the moment. That's what your liver's doing. From the
Yeah.
moment you take a sip, your body's trying to get the toxins out of you.
Here we go again.
I know. There's a million reasons why we are the luckiest, which we'll get to next time. And I think you even said that before I joined. We are the luckiest. And I won't even talk if you read the book. But one of them is, I say to people that lament this, they don't believe we're the luckiest. I say, sorry, you're allergic, to say in quotation marks for my literal friend Matt. Literal, he takes everything literally and will correct me. But they say you're allergic to alcohol. So we're allergic to poison. Boo-hoo. Like, sorry, you can never drink it again. You're never going to get a hangover again, etc. And I know it's hard.
You get a better life. You get a better life.
Yeah, it's amazing. So
it's a feather bed on the other side, if you're wondering.
Yeah.
And a trampoline, and it's really fun over here on this side once you get through it.
Absolutely. So it's great. So, all right. I don't know. We'll probably end up doing maybe all this is a part one, and we'll definitely do a part two. So thank you so much, Koki. And
thanks for inviting me into the room. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome. And as I end everyone by saying, stronger, sober.
So much stronger. Thank you.
Thanks. I hope you'll stay tuned. And as always, please like, share, subscribe, and please consider a review. It really helps. Peace.